This video is brought to you by Sporlan. Quality, integrity, and tradition. So this is just a quick little video where I put together two short videos that I had. I just didn't feel like there was enough information to make a full video out of each of these, so here you go. So we've got a pretty beat up swamp cooler here, and what's happening is we're tearing the belts up. The reason why we're tearing the belts up is because that pulley is just hammered and rusted out beyond belief, and it's just shredding the belts. This pulley's pretty milfed too on the inside. So the question is, with as rusted out as this is, can I replace just the pulleys? And I think I can. What I've done before is, you're not going to get that shaft out of this thing. It's just going to be a nightmare. So what we do is we put a shaft coupler here, and it's not great for like super high RPM stuff, but you can chop this off, put a shaft coupler. On the flip side, this swamp cooler would be super easy to replace. You see, like, I mean, there's quite a bit of room here, and to be honest with you, I could put in like a captive air unit that has the on-demand evaporative cooling, so it's not constantly recirculating water, creating all that humidity inside the unit that's rusting it out. So if you look at this, like, we have all that ductwork to work with. Even if they didn't want to put in a captive air unit, I could put a new swamp cooler in. It's just a side shot. We could slap that thing in probably for dirt cheap. So we're just kind of evaluate everything. I'm going to measure out the unit, see how hard it is to clean up that shaft. I'm going to sand it real quick and see how hard it's going to be. And they may just have me put in a new swamp cooler here for as cheap as it's going to be. The problem is these swamp coolers don't last, man. They're junk. You don't get a couple years out of them. I think this restaurant's probably only 4 years old, something like that. So if I was to repair this, I would put new driven pulley, new motor pulley, new belt. I would put new piece of shaft right there, 2 new bearings. I'd put that shaft extender because I don't think you're going to get that shaft out completely. I mean, we could try, but we would have that shaft coupler with us. Whenever we do those repairs, we're always going to put a new pump to start up for the season, because these pumps usually last about a year, 2 years at the most. And we'll put a new water float. The pads are in pretty bad shape, but I mean the panels, they're in pretty bad shape, but I mean, I could get a little more time out of them. But this one right here is pretty rusted out, and if you look up here, it's starting to corrode because of the rust. So realistically, I think they can get 1 more season out of these. So if they do the repair, they'll get 1 season, and then next year they'll have to change the whole cooler, because I can't get these you know, pad holders. It would be super easy to install a new swamp cooler because it's a side shot, easy peasy, you know, no problem there. And you know, we can give them the option to replace it with a like for like swamp cooler. Usually get 4 years if you're lucky out of one of those swamp coolers, because they just rust out. We could come in here with a captive air unit that has the on-demand evaporative cooling, where essentially it only sprays water over the pads. It has a cell deck media, and you know, it only sprays what it needs, and then it evaporates, and they have to replace the cell deck media every 2 years. The cell deck media is usually about $1,000, so they got to kind of weigh that out. But if I wanted to, I could put that captive air unit, and I'll pan back right here and show you guys. I could shoot it that way right there, level the unit out, have plenty of room, you know, and do that. So you can tell they moved this over here and ducted it to the side like they did because there's exhaust fans over here. So had they put the swamp cooler there, they'd have been sucking exhaust air into the exhaust fans. So okay, so at this point, we've got the information we need off of the parts that we possibly would replace, but we also need to get the information off the cooler and the wheel size, so that way we can appropriately size a new swamp cooler. Alright, so today we've got a cold rail. It says no fan motor, it's just a static cold rail. Nothing fancy to it at all that's not working. So this is a multiplexed compressor, and that's our controller back there. And essentially it's tied in with these Cook drawers, and the Cook drawers are working fine. So we've got a controller that's blank. Bunch of rat traps in there too, and we've got a power switch that they should be shutting on and off every night, but nothing's happening here. So what it seems like is like we have no power. So what I'm going to do first, this is all of our controls. So our temperature controller's back there. That's the box with the solenoid valve coil in it. And then you can just see it comes out the wall down there, tees, goes to the cook drawers, and there's a thermostat, solenoid valve, and a time clock for the cook drawers. But again, the cook drawers are working fine. So it's just the cold rail that's down. So I'm gonna dig into it. I'm gonna start with this switch right here. Okay, I highly suggest that when you put switches in, you tape them. Okay, the point of doing that is so that way when you're undoing them, you can undo them live potentially and not have them short out on the side of the boxes. Okay, so I believe I put this switch in. I believe I've replaced it once before, but look at that, that's not good. I moved the switch and it's dripping water on me. That's healthy and safe. Fingers wet. So we're gonna pull this tape off and then test the switch. So this switch has no power, and I checked to ground also. So we're gonna go looking for a circuit breaker right now, because this switch should be the main, or is the main power for this whole cold rail. So we're gonna go check a circuit breaker. Check that out. There's a hidden defrost clock back in there. Haha. There's our problem. We got a bad defrost clock. Cool. We'll get it changed out. Easy peasy. So I'm in the process of changing this clock, and I wanted to point something out. The clock that I put back in, it's a Hvacr module, okay? If it has the QRTUZ, that means it has you can kind of, to make it easy, you can call it a battery backup. Essentially, it doesn't lose time, okay? It holds, it has a 150-hour reserve, I think, so it holds the time. So if there's a power outage, it won't lose time. So this is an OEM clock, but you can actually get them locally too. You just got to special order them, the QRTUZ Hvacr modules. So we install nothing but these, so it's really easy, because then if we come up on a clock that doesn't have the right time on it, we know it's bad and we just change it. With these ones, if someone turns the power off for so much time, see the part number is a FM1STUZ. With this one, if you turn off power, it won't keep time. So that's why I install these ones. And again, it's not an actual battery, it's like a quartz crystal or something in there. But the easiest way to describe it is it has a 150-hour battery backup. So, but yeah, these are the ones we go back in with. So that way when we go to replace them, or when we go to, you know, do PMs and stuff, and we find that the time is wrong, we know it's bad. Easy peasy. Okay, so put a new time clock in there. Went ahead and wrote on the cover, time clock inside for the next guy. Oh, he doesn't have to stare at it for a minute like I did. And then also replace the power switch, because the other one wasn't shutting power off and the switch had water in it. So now it controls it, and I'll turn it on. You can see it turn on. So now we're good to go. I think this power switch is a little redundant, because essentially with that defrost clock, they're turning it off from midnight till 5 a.m., which is when they're closed. So, but whatever, it is what it is. Just put it back together. We're good to go. We're gonna just jump on the roof, check out the compressor, make sure everything's good up there. I'm pretty confident that's working fine, because they weren't complaining about the cook drawers that are also connected to this multiplex system. So that's it. The first video, we had a swamp cooler that was burning through belts. One of my other techs had already diagnosed it. I just went out to get the information so that way we could quote everything, okay? I've already submitted the quote to the customer, basically gave them both options if they want to replace it or repair it. And then I did let them know everything that I said in the video, you know, hey, if we repair this, there's a chance you're only going to get about a year out of it. But, you know, who knows? We put that in their hands. They haven't made a decision as of yet. And as far as the second video, that was a pan chiller that wasn't working. That was a static cold rail. Obviously, it was kind of a silly one where there was a time clock that was hidden, but got that replaced and went ahead and replaced the switch too. Pay attention to how I said to wrap the switches. I think that's really important when we're working on these things, is to wrap those switches. So that way when you pull them out, it makes it easier for servicing. So really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos. You know, just thanks so much. Okay, I will catch you guys on the next one.